What's the worst cheating story you've ever heard? I went to the wedding of my then boyfriend's friend. Easily the best wedding I've ever been to. Absolutely a smash. The bride was lead singer in a band and they performed. Killed it. Just a great party all around. People had a great time and the couple seemed so happy. The next day I'm at brunch with the wedding party, sans married couple, and everyone's phone buzzes. The best man gets up and takes a call. The mood absolutely falls. Everyone gets quiet. I ask my BF what's going on. Apparently the bride had been cheating on him the entire relationship with the drummer in her band, who performed at the wedding. She told him that morning. Immediate divorce. We all sat there, and one of the groomsmen goes, "We can never tell him how great his wedding was." Edit. This comment took off. Sorry if you know this wedding. Wasn't trying to blow up a spot, it was just a great party. Also, I'd appreciate not including this story in any TikTok/Insta/YouTube compilations. I'm not interested in spreading around the worst day of this guy's life. Thanks. Firefighter asked another firefighter to cover his shift by working for him. He then went and had sex with his wife that day. Sounds wholesome. Oh wait, I took was like OHH. Finally something wholesome. Then I saw your comment. My mum told me this story about one of my dad's old colleagues. She was an acquaintance of the wife. They'd been married 4 years. Older couple. He cheated on her with an 18-year-old. In a fit of rage she bought a new car, new clothes, and threw a few enormous parties. When the anger passed she became severely depressed and hung herself. He found her in the entrance of their house. They had kids too, but I think they were in their early 20s by then. This is depressing. Adultery/cheating really ruins lives. So many issues today with people worried about their self-worth. And in this woman's case it sounds like it destroyed her. There's a reason it's illegal in some societies. Whether it should be an offense actionable by the government is a whole can of worms. But anyone who's ever had to deal with the actual consequences and emotions adultery causes can at least understand why some people think so. One person's hatter, "It wasn't a big deal really, we were just having fun," is another person's "suck starter shotgun." My BO mom's best friend was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. We moved her husband and her daughter in. My mom slept with her husband and got pregnant, so they put her in a nursing home to die all alone, just so they wouldn't have to deal with the consequences. She was hours away as well, so her daughter, who was 10 at the time, was unable to visit her. She died alone because she went to her best friend for help. I don't speak to BO mom anymore. After her friend's death, she showed off a brand new car with the life insurance money. She married her husband. At the time, her dead best friend also had a 19-year-old daughter who was homeless with a toddler. I felt so sick sitting in the car listening to her brag about how nice it was and how she finally got the car she deserved. Some people are disgusting. Edit to add more backstop. That just makes this story absolutely vile. My BO mom is a counselor and the way she even met this best friend of hers was through the daughter who was 19 with a toddler. They met when said daughter was 13. My BO mom was her Kasuoka for mental health support. She crossed a huge professional boundary doing this. On top of that, she came into this girl's life to help her and ended up hurting her so badly. Her mom, who passed, wasn't the only victim here. My BO mom was also married. There's other children involved, etc. So many people were hurt by this. It's truly sickening. TBH. During my BO mom's pregnancy, her mom actually also got stage 4 lung cancer. She died within 7 weeks and never met BO mom's baby. I kinda feel like it was her fault in a sense. I truly believe karma can and will get you through loved ones. One of my wife's cousins died of cancer after a 30-year marriage. When her husband was clearing out her home office, he found a box with diaries, receipts, letters, hotel keys, etc., detailing the hundreds of times she cheated on him with random guys throughout their whole marriage, going so far as to take their daughters to meetups and gaslighting them about what was happening. Ugh. After my husband died, I was looking through his belongings to find things that our daughters might like to have in the future, and I found hard proof that he had been cheating on me for years with someone I considered a good friend. It broke me. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're doing better and have moved on as best you can. Couple was together for 8 years. Both working at sea on the same ship for 8 to 11 week trips. Bought the house and heading towards marriage. Kids etc start a 11 week trip and noticed something wasn't right. Girl had fucked another crew member on the trip off and wanted to be with them. Guy had to watch the start of the new relationship while on a floating prison and due to his qualifications couldn't leave the ship. Source: me. I'm that guy. My friend was partying with her boyfriend and some other people. Her boyfriend fucked another girl on the same couch as her while she was passed out. She woke up part of the way through it and just didn't know what to do. When I was 18 a long time ago, I was seeing this guy and one night he wanted to go driving around to hang out. He brought along one friend. I brought along one too. We were out all night and he dropped off his friend at home but wanted to keep hanging out with us. We parked up somewhere and I was so tired, so I tried to fall asleep in the backseat. After a while both he and my friend thought I really was asleep, and although they didn't hook up, they got super flirty and my friend did try, but he turned her down. I was young and felt awkward and didn't want them to think I was faking being asleep to spy on them, so I just laid there for a while trying not to cry until I pretended to wake up and act as if nothing happened. Props to him. I'm sorry your friend betrayed you like that. I was an IT contractor for the Department of Defense, NMCI for those curious. We got a keyword alert on an email conversation. Then more. Same folks involved. So we went and checked out the email and the email thread. Turns out it was a senior chief who was talking to nearly a half dozen women under his chain of command that he was having affairs with, multiples of which were pregnant with his children. He, of course, was married, having 4 kids with his wife. What started out with a "hey, you're not supposed to discuss that on regular" email investigation turned into a massive scandal, wrecking multiple marriages, and turned into a whole lot of meetings with his very angry co. Don't do stupid s on company email. And really don't do stupid s on DOD servers. I've been an email admin for 20 plus years. I've seen stuff like this many times. I was always having to do searches for legal, so saw everything. Former colleague of mine in his mid-30s was living with his long-term girlfriend and they had been shopping for engagement rings. He comes to work one day and early afternoon receives a text from her telling him she's seeing someone else, has packed up the house and moved out to live with the other guy. No apology, no further explanation. She then immediately blocked him and left him to deal with the rent and other bills on his own. He was a nice guy. It was horrendous to see that happen to him. He's now happily married. To someone else, of course. Same thing happened to my best friend, but he and the girl were married. He didn't get a text though. Just came home from work and all her s was gone. Ended up having to go to her work, and one of her colleagues came out in the parking lot to tell him it was over. What's crazy is the girl evidently didn't tell hardly anyone about it. Her dad even came by my friend's house 3 months later asking to see his daughter, and my buddy is like, "Oh, you don't know what happened, do you?" But just like your story, the guy's happily remarried and in a much better situation now. Couple sitting across from me at a bar in Key West. She was his best friend's former wife. They started hooking up and best friend found out the affair. Came home after church once and blew his head off. Once the dust was settled, she married her dead husband's best friend who she had been causing the suicide. They were both insanely happy and even partially laughed when telling me the story. Alcohol makes people just spill everything. Sound like a couple of psychopaths. My friend had a massive heart attack and having sex was hard for him for a while. He worked and his wife didn't. He fell asleep in the chair one morning while getting ready for work. He awoke to a man unlocking his door. For about a year, while he was at work, his wife had different men with keys to the house coming over to have sex with her. Damn. Giving these men keys though. That's sickening. SMH. Hope your friend is alright. Yeah. That part was particularly disturbing. I ran into my ex-wife's mother at a bar with some guy like 10 years after we separated. Said hi and disappeared quickly. 6 months later she is in the local paper. Apparently the guy she was with was her paralyzed husband's brother that she was fucking. She hung herself in jail after being arrested for trying to hire a hitman cop to kill her husband. I was so relieved to have gotten away from that craziness and surprised my ex didn't as her to make it a 2-for-1 special with me thrown into boot. Yikes. My ex-husband cheated on me while I was going through cancer treatment, then divorced me after it progressed to stage 4. F that guy. I hope his D falls off. Edit. Just wanted to say thank you all for putting D falling off vibes out into the universe. I really do appreciate it. I also vote for his D to fall off. So say one. So say we all. My dad cheated on my mom with my best friend's mom who was also married. I was a teenager at the time and unfortunately found out before my mom did. Guess who had to tell her? My dad told me I owed it to him to not say anything. The massive amount of guilt I dealt with for outing him and destroying my mom's life haunted me for years. F asshole. I worked in a factory. We will call them Ben and Sarah. Ben was a supervisor of maintenance and Sarah worked setup, sort of a maintenance person specialized for that specific production line. Ben's wife was diagnosed with terminal cancer. When this happened, Ben started cheating on his wife with Sarah. He had quite a bit of money and promised Sarah that after his wife passed, they'd move away to a beautiful cabin in British Columbia in the mountains. I caught them boning in the maintenance office one midnight shift. I didn't report it because I was a dumb 21-year-old. Long story short, Ben promised Sarah the world after his wife passed. Welp. His wife ended up beating this terminal diagnosis and he broke it off with Sarah. This literally drove Sarah insane and she was forced to check into a mental hospital. I never saw her again after that. I have a friend that's an oncologist. He irrefutably believes that mood, meaning less stress, less anxiety and a good home life, are key to the best outcome of a cancer diagnosis. He has said throughout the years that several patients have known that their spouses cheat following the cancer diagnosis. But due to the spouse being happier, more emotionally supportive and less stressed, the patient looks past the infidelity. I said so ironically. Adultery leads to a happier home life and better outcome. He's Catholic. He didn't talk to me for 6 months after my uncalled for comment. Not me but my best friend. He was madly in love with a woman and wanted to marry her. They lived together and were very happy. As a birthday gift, she bought him a plane ticket so he could fly out to see me. While he was with me, he would talk to her every so often. Every time he got off the phone with her, he would tell me something just wasn't right. His spidey sense was tingling. He came home to find evidence that she had someone over at their place. She initially denied it, but eventually she admitted to having a male coworker in the house. Her buying the ticket was just a way for her to have the place to herself for a 3-day sex romp. My buddy was devastated and heartbroken. It took him years to recover. Edit. This was many years ago. My buddy is doing just fine and is in a happy, healthy relationship. The woman in the story, not so much. She bottomed out in life. Drugs and alcohol eventually took over. Last I heard, she was quasi homeless and had to shack up with a much older, controlling man just so she could have a place to sleep. Everyone got what they deserved in the end. My girlfriend did something similar. Talked me into going to a 4-day personal growth workshop. Then as soon as I left, she headed out for a long weekend at a cabin in the woods with her affair partner. Then they got snowed in and so the house was empty with the pets unfed when I got back. I know someone who regularly cheated on their out-of-town girlfriend. I guess he was going to cut all that out when she finished her advanced degree program out of state. She moved to his state and they got an apartment together. While in the shower, his phone is buzzing with messages. She finds the girl's username sending all these messages and decides to send her a direct message from her own account. And the other girl was completely honest with her. I know who you are. I hook up with your BF all the time, including last weekend at your new apartment in your bed, etc etc. God damn. I know there are people out there that get off on F people with so's, but that's brutal. I'm not sure this is the case with this girl. They had a thing since high school and would just hook up every now and then, with it being slightly more or less frequent over the next 15 or so years. When she got called out on it, she was kinda bluntly honest with the GF. When I was a police officer, a co-worker found his wife in bed with another police officer from the same district. Wife would tell the lover about husband's week schedule and lover would have his changed in order to have sex with the wife while husband was working. Problem was one day husband got dismissed 3 hours early and went back home without texting his wife first. He had some suspects, but could never imagine about another police officer. No shots were fired that day, luckily. Cops and firefighters are notorious philanderers, as I'm sure you're aware. The former police chief, he recently got fired for embezzlement of my one-horse town, was ran out of his former sheriff's department because he was his underlings' wives while they were on duty. Ex-boss fucked his wife's niece in the bushes on a hike. Her husband caught them, and they all got divorced. He ended up marrying his ex-wife's niece a few years later. His now ex-wife and his new current wife are all best of friends again. Weird. Did not expect that twist. This was a long time ago. Girl I was interested in told me she recently broke up with her BF, but still lived with him. One night she told me he physically abused her. I brought some of our mutual friends over to her place to help her move out. The ex-BF came home to see all of us standing there moving furniture. My friends and I are heated when we see him. We confronted him, roughed him up a bit, pushed him up against the fence. This guy didn't say a word. He looked like he's about to cry. It was just weird. We thought he'd fight back, but he didn't. We grab the rest of this girl's stuff and we leave. Girl and I ended up dating seriously. It's now years later, and we've been living together for a while now. Things weren't going well in the relationship. We start arguing a lot. She starts instigating fights and leaves the home more. I get a random call one night from a guy who says I need to stop abusing this girl. For the record, I have never put a hand on this girl or any girl, ever. He shows up one night and we have a fist fight in front of my apartment. Turns out she's been feeding this guy lies about me being abusive and that they've been hooking up. This is the same thing she did to me when we first met. When I had a talk with her a week later, she admitted to making some of that stuff up when we first met. Hope you told the dude Ash was seeing besides you this, and that you both guys teamed up against this BTCH. That is disgusting of her. Not so much cheating, but this guy I personally knew when I was running around in the streets had a harem of about 5 women, all older, all with their own homes, either cheating on their husbands with him or divorced. That's not the worst part though. He admitted to me that he would purposely seek out oldish lonely women, get them hooked on meth, like he was, specifically so he'd have these women rely on him for their drugs and he'd have a bed to fall into every night / could ask them for money whenever he needed it. He was willfully and knowingly getting these middle / upper class women with no real experience with drugs or the street life, addicted to meth little by little, so he could use them for his personal gain. That was his hustle. That was his job. It's literally what he devoted his life to doing. When he first told me, it blew my mind that I was talking to a bona fide psychopath. I'd like to say that I cut all contact with him after that, but at the time, he was my dealer, so I didn't. Dude would tell me stories of how he had these chicks wrapped around his finger, how he just got $500 from this one chick because he fed her some story about his rent, and tomorrow he was getting $400 from the next one because he fed her the same story, and the night after that he had to go sleep with number 3 because her husband wouldn't be there. He juggled them like it was a business, because to him, it was crazy as hell. An ex was at a party with her then boyfriend, but she wanted to have sex with another guy, so she gave her boyfriend 2 really strong diazepam pills telling him they were ecstasy. This was 90s Scotland, so people were given to gobbling pills like Smarties without asking too many questions. When he passed out she went upstairs and did the do with the other guy. I'm confused at your ex. Yeah. Who perhaps unsurprisingly cheated on me lol. Years back, in my early 20s, there was one guy who was in my extended friend group. Didn't know him that well, but he was a friend of a friend of a friend, and we would occasionally find ourselves in the same social gatherings. He had just started dating this girl. She was maybe a few years younger than us, probably about 18 to 19. They were at the very start of their relationship, so I don't know if they were exclusive to each other, but people knew they were dating. A bunch of them went out on a night out. I didn't go out, but I heard about what happened later on. This friend of mine got extremely drunk. The girl he was seeing helped him back to his house. His dad was still up and heard them trying to get into the door. This was the first time the girl had met his dad. The dad helped friend to his room and then invited the girl in for a chat and to get to know her a bit. The girl ended up F the dad that night. You must have gotten here late, because I think this is the most outrageous one. Ex-partner let me raise her kid for 4 years while cheating on me with his father the whole time. Let me propose, to which she said yes. Then one night after me paying up his month of private nursery fees and putting him to bed, I came through to her telling me to leave or she'd call the police and tell them I had broken into the house and never to contact them again. They've bought a house together now and are seemingly doing well, while I still haven't fully recovered and don't know my own self-worth. That's a shortened version of events. You just can't devalue yourself based on the actions of insane people. I'm working on this very thing. Stay strong. My brother's girlfriend cheated on him with his best friend, and when he found them doing it in his bed, my brother beat his friend to death. Now my brother is in prison for life. Damn. My cousin told me this. While he was in boot camp, there was a guy who had a GF/wife and a girl who had a BF/husband, and the boy and girl decided to cheat on there. So the day before graduating from boot camp, a sergeant who was a family and didn't approve of people who cheated on their SO saw them kissing, and he had them call their SO to tell them that they wouldn't be graduating from boot camp and needed to start from day 1 of boot camp because they chose to cheat on their SO. My friend's husband hired a prostitute for $40 when my friend was a few weeks postpartum with their baby. He invited the prostitute over to their house while taking care of their baby and had sex in their bed. My friend found out later because he was missing from the school where they both worked, and she found out he had been arrested or detained or something. I forget exactly, because he had gone to the police to report that he was being blackmailed. The prostitute had started blackmailing him, and he went to a loan shark to get $1,000 to pay her off, and when she demanded more money, I guess he decided he couldn't keep paying and tried to report her to the cops and tried to lie about his involvement. The cops obviously were suspicious and found out he had hired her. He was fired from his job at the school, and it crushed my friend. To add insult to injury, her mother-in-law blamed her, saying that she hadn't slept with her husband during some of the pregnancy. It was causing her a lot of pain at the end of her pregnancy and she physically couldn't. She's still with him. I hate his guts so much, and it makes me so furious that she's still with that gaping asshole. My mate was 16 when he fell in love with a girl who turned out he knew when they were toddlers. She got pregnant. He gave up a training course to work as a builder for instant money. He was so happy, so excited for the future. She went on holiday, cheated on him repeatedly, and when he found out, she blamed him for her behavior. They split up. She put posters around where he lived with a picture of him, accusing him of all sorts. He completely humiliated him. He tried to take his life. He survived, but ended up in a hostel at the age of 17, surrounded by drug addicts and pedophiles recently released from prison. The poor guy ended up a heroin addict and never recovered. We lost contact, and the last time I saw him was shortly before my wedding 18 years ago. He was clean, but mentally wasn't the same. My wife had an uncle who died. Before he died, his wife, who I will call Auntie Cocaine, was cheating on him with Dude 2. People knew it. When he died, Auntie Cocaine and Dude 2 stayed together for years. When Dude 2 died a few years ago, it was known that Auntie Cocaine was already banging Dude 3. She doesn't quite understand why her first husband's brother doesn't want her at family events anymore. Wait, why is her nickname Auntie Cocaine? Sounds like a big part that was never mentioned. I had a roommate in college who was a big cheater. He had a GF from high school at another college and she would come to visit on the weekends sometimes. He cheated on her all the time. One weekend, she came down to visit and he was not home. The rest of us had taken a taxi home from a bar, but he went home with a girl. His very cute GF was wearing an overcoat, and it was obvious that she had driven a couple of hours from her college in special lingerie to come see him. He knew she was coming. She hung out with me, watching TV and waiting for him. We'd known each other a couple of years and were friendly. She started out excited for him to come home, wanting to show him the lingerie. Then she got really down when it was obvious he was not coming home. She actually flashed me the lingerie briefly. I think she just wanted someone to see it. She was a hot blonde, and she had on black bra and black panties with a garter belt and stockings. She looked great. She ended up changing out of it into sweats and sleeping on the couch. They broke up when he came home in the morning. Damn, I was hoping the story ended with you smashing her.